Welcome to DRGLT Economics. This is the second of 3 recordings that I'm making today on various topics. And this particular one is on inflation. Everyone by now is aware that inflation is becoming a huge issue globally. But a lot of the discussions that I hear from various people just show that people have different understandings of what is causing this inflation. A lot of the quote-unquote economists still point to issues such as supply chain and in Europe strikes and shortages, conflicts. But I'm not necessarily a monetarist, but I want to just set the record straight. So in this short video, short podcast, hopefully, I want to make 2 points. Number one, that inflation is everywhere a monetary phenomenon. And number 2, that interest rate sets the cost of money. And it's nothing more. It's actually very simple. I think for a responsible central bank, money issuance should reflect productivity, and how tight or loose a currency is should reflect the operations of the country's economy. There's nothing, it should not be so complicated, but people make it complicated because central banks are staffed by politicians. Now, I want to say one thing too, that central banks and fiat currencies are introduced with an argument, and this is somewhat a solid argument, which is that a sound argument, let's just say, that using a fixed asset such as gold with a fast growing economy means that this money, gold, is highly deflationary. And another thing that you need to you need to know is that when you have a deflationary monetary system, what entails is that there will be underinvestment because the cost of money is too high. So it's better not to invest in production, in the real economy, but instead to hold the money, hold gold. And that is not necessarily great from the government's point of view, from the management or steward of a nation's economy. So it's reasonable argument that fiat currency should be used with a central bank that is responsible. And what is a 0% inflation? 0% inflation is a money issuance that corresponds with growth in productivity. So if the productivity increases by 5%, we make sure that 5% more money is circulating in the economy by whatever means. And what is deflation is that productivity increase outpaces money issuance. So or it could be that the cost of money gets very high, and even though productivity is falling, and inflation is to the contrary, right? When it could be that that money issuance outpaces the growth in productivity. So the productivity increases by 2%, but you put 10% more money into the economy to circulate around. That's going to cause roughly 8% inflation, right? Or it could be that there is a decline in productivity, even though you are not your money is not tight enough. The cost of money is not high enough. In other words, the interest rate is not high enough, so that you are not really combating the contraction of the economy. So from this point of view, when there is a contraction in the economy, when there is a supply chain issue, for example, what you should do is not to print money to quote unquote stimulate it, but instead what you should do is to increase the interest rate, lower the money that's circulating in the economy, lower the purchasing power, and as a result, this is how you can ensure price stability, right? What is observed these days across the world is that central banks and governments want to spend money in times of economic difficulties. They want to stimulate by fiscal and monetary measures. And the result is that, in my view, is that there is inflation, and sometimes above normal, like basically very difficult for, by above normal, I mean a level of inflation that is very difficult for people to swallow, even though they are accustomed to continued inflation, right? I think there are also arguments that people make, and I also want to address that too, which is that some level of inflation is good in a fast-growing economy. I kind of agree with this. I agree, because with above zero inflation, what you have is some malinvestment, and the higher the inflation, the more malinvestment you have. But with a inflation under 0%, in essentially deflation, you will have underinvestment. And so for a fast-growing economy, a lot of the leaders, or the economic leaders, or whatever, decision makers, want to err on the side of malinvestment rather than that of underinvestment. The idea is that some malinvestments will indeed create some economic cycles, right? So that, but when the economic cycle closes, a lot of those malinvestments will be flashed out through bankruptcies, perhaps, or through acquisitions, mergers, etc. But this will ensure at least that money that should be invested, correct that. Ensure that businesses that should have received investment receive investment, right? That's they believe is better than underinvestment, which is where a lot of businesses that should be invested don't receive investment, so that there may not be a big economic bubble, but there will be a economic growth that is slower. I kind of agree with that too. So I'm not a pure monetarist, but I want people to basically get out of their mind the notion that a supply chain issue is going to can cause inflation. It is the response to supply chain issue, a response to a decline or strikes or bad economic conditions, environments, war, conflicts. All those monetary and fiscal responses are causing inflation. It is not the first incidents that caused the inflation. All right, so this is the second recording I'm making today. Thanks for listening, and be sure to wait for the third one as well. I think probably I will post it the day after. Thanks, have a great day.